Hello everyone. Welcome. We got Lisa. Hello. I actually saw a couple people a little bit earlier, but I always think it's funny that YouTube like deletes those once you start going live. So unfortunately I did not see you, but hopefully I will see you again in here somewhere. Lisa, yay! I'm so excited to pick y'all's brains and hear your thoughts and opinions. Rodney, hi. Welcome. Naomi's here. Naomi, name. Not Name? I'm sorry, I misread that completely. Hello, welcome. Just see, it's 11 at night where I am. Oh man. Okay, I was like, do you need to go to sleep? Is this a bad idea? But you decide. Shay, hello. Mullen, hi. We'll just stay for a bit as it's late here, but I wanted to watch the beginning. Thank you, welcome. Michael's here. Hi, Michael. Angel, hello. You were definitely on time. James, hi. Kermit the Frog. Elizabeth, welcome. Nick, I just saw you earlier. Hi, Nick. Let's see. Kadra, hello. Hello. Welcome, everyone. A pigeon in a coquette. Hello. Diana's here with a beautiful profile. I love that. Welcome. Becca's here. Hi. Amy, hello. Hi there. Hi. Sunny's here. Sarah, Beatrix, hello. SJ, hello. Am I behind or am I right on time? Hello. Welcome. Yay! Glad to have you all here. Jessica, hello, Miss Jess. Lily, Laura, hi. I realized that more or less these are topics that I totally could have done for this month's AuthorTube chat, but I was like, I need to talk about them now because it is bothering me. I have questions. I need answers. I need to chat with people. So, Jess, if you want to hop on, you're welcome to do so. Caitlin, hi. Miller, welcome. Nathaniel, hello. Jillian, Amy Ray, welcome. Cassandra, hi. Oh, currently drafting as we speak. Shelby, I hope to do both. I want to be a hybrid author. Isabel, welcome. Green, Mysterious Sparks, Lucas, the K48. I made it. I made it to the end. Welcome, everyone. Let me know what y'all are up to tonight, what you're drinking, what's going on. I thought about calling this like the Writer's Tavern or like the Writer's Cafe or something. But when I searched it up on YouTube, there were already like several others. The Writer's Room, Barrett, Lori just made a similar like righty chatty type stream kind of thing with the Writer's Room, which is very clever. I think I voted in his poll actually about this. So at the end of this, I'll talk about some other people who are doing like some cool chatty videos or chatty streams like Nia, Vixen Fiction, AuthorTubers React. Yes, that's totally okay, Jess. Let me know what you're making. We got Coca-Cola. I have the last bit of some coffee that I made on the Twitch stream that I just had, and I got. Can it be called a mimosa if it's different juices? Like, is mimosa specifically orange juice? This one's guava, and the last bit of some Costco champagne that I had. Yay! Shay is watching me and cleaning up. Trying to keep August off to a good start, and summer cleaning isn't work. Shay, I need to do some summer cleaning too, y'all. I kept promising myself that I would like go through my clothes again and donate the stuff that doesn't fit anymore and just be like, be free to someone else that it does fit, but I have not worked up to doing that. But this is how I tell myself it's going to happen. Okay, mimosa, specifically orange juice. Well, then this one's just even more fun. Hi, Hero, Michaela, Mavcat. Brute forcing myself through the end of this draft and drinking a Starbucks iced mocha. Ooh, I do love a good mocha. Couple gin and tonics earlier, but now on water. Yay, Mullen. Angel's gonna get some tea. Need to get some cooking started as it's coming up on supper time. We might be near-ish the same time zone, Angel. Hello, welcome. Okay, so this is the part where I have some disclaimers here, and that I just wanted to do this chatty stream because I saw some things online that I was like, I really just want to get other writers' opinions on. So I'm by no means an expert on these topics. Literally, the most I've done is just read them and consumed them and wanted to talk to other people who have hopefully read and consumed them. So are links down below if you're like, I want to catch up. I want to read on about it. Lava Momo, that's what I will do, Mullen, yes. So, without further ado, I do have a question for y'all. I guess I should show that the topics of today's Squabbling Scribes, which my partner named because y'all know I'm terrible at titles. We're going to talk about the unofficial Bridgerton musical that started on TikTok, won a Grammy, and is now being sued by Netflix for copyright infringement. We're also going to talk about the HarperCollins workers' strike for more pay, better benefits, and more diversity. And we're going to talk about the Reddit thread on Patrick Rothfuss charity fundraiser that he did. He was raising money for the charity, and within that, he was promising rewards if they hit like certain milestones, you know. And one of them was, or several of them were about book 3, which is, I don't know, a decade plus in the making or something like that. And he's not updated anything. So I'm just curious again about y'all's takes. If you want more information, there are links down below. I will try and do a bit of like showing on screen some of the articles. But yes. So I guess the first question, let me actually put a poll up because this feels like the first question that should start. Do you use TikTok is the question. And I would love for you to expand upon that. If you use it like just to watch stuff or you also like make things. I would be very curious. So we're on to the first topic. I have questions throughout these topics that are going to be in and out. And we'll see. You'll be able to see how my mind works with some of these questions. Hopefully it won't shake too much anymore. I was typing or moving on the keyboard. My little mouse struggles a little bit. So we'll see. Only on IG Reels. Way too much. Few on Earth that doesn't have TikTok at all. Oh, I only watch TikTok. That's why I watch a lot of TikToks that other people send me. That's when I watch, especially because you don't have to have an account in order to watch specific ones. Like I think to search TikTok you do, but oh, what is this one? Dear God, no, I was addicted for a year, then dropped it like a hot potato. I felt manipulated. Oh, that's fascinating. Jillian, you are my target audience for these questions. I got TikTok to keep up with the Bridgerton musical. I know that there's also, was it a Ratatouille musical that's happening too? Or throughout, or just on the TikToks? I guess if TikTok is this, it came installed on my phone. Excuse me? And other people send me links. It came installed on your phone, Shay? Send me links, but I'm waiting for it to hit Netflix or YouTube. I don't even have an account. I just deleted my TikTok and tripled my production in these. Okay, so we got a mix. Let me see. I'm going to go ahead and end this poll. And it looks like it will. Okay, Angel saying there is a Ratatouille musical on TikTok. So Bridgerton's not the only one. Jillian's also obsessed with the Ratatouille musical. 57% no, 30% yes, 12% sometimes or rarely. So I have the follow-up question, which actually, silly me, is not on here. So I guess my question for y'all, we'll do another one, is have you seen the Bridgerton musical on TikTok? Like, are you aware of this thing? Were you aware of it before? See, some people are saying the Ratatouille musical was excellent. Ratatouille one was interesting. Had y'all seen the the Bridgerton musical, had you listened to the album? Did you know it won a Grammy? Because until I saw that Netflix was suing them, because I'm not on TikTok, I had no idea that this was a thing. And I did actually go and listen to a couple of the like first iterations. Yes, that's the one I heard, and I was like, I see why it got so popular. Okay, Joanna, I knew of it because I watch musical theater YouTubers. This is good that some of y'all have kind of crossover YouTubers that you watch, because I have all these into the follow-up. Okay, I love the Bridgerton musical. I was keeping up with behind the scenes at the Grammys, so that's how I knew. I was aware of it before they got sued, but I didn't watch it, and I didn't like the Ratatouille musical either. Oh, that's interesting, Zara, because I know you do like these. Okay, and Lewis has thoughts. So, the little version, for those of you who are not aware, and this is going to be, please feel free to correct me if I have this wrong and you'll have more information. But basically, a TikTok musical started because these two women had worked together to come up with songs, sometimes pulling from dialogue directly within the Bridgerton show. And basically, it was inspired by / unofficially the Bridgerton musical. They made a bunch of songs, created an album, and to my knowledge, somewhere in here, Netflix had actually gotten in contact with them, being like, hey, this is basically the line we don't want you to cross, which is, I think they didn't want live performances. I'm not sure how they really felt about the album. But then the women, after having won the Grammy or somewhere in here, decided to kind of start putting on live performances, selling merch that like use the Bridgerton name and maybe some of the like font characteristics or like background characteristics. And that is when all of these things kind of exploded, with Netflix being like, you really can't do this. Okay, Shay also did not know. Was that a good summation for those of you who are also on the up about it? Yes. And Bridgerton, the show, is based off of a very popular book series from, I want to say it started like many years ago. So I think the big conundrum a lot of people are facing is we're in a world now where oftentimes we don't want to align with big companies, except that, of course, the big company is totally right in this as well. Or in my opinion. Julia Quinn, 20 years ago, thank you, Rose. I was like, how many decades? Because, of course, the problem is that they took information, they took dialogue, specifically from the show, which has writers on the show. And okay, Lewis, this is the interesting part. Normally I'm pro-creative, but this feels cut and dry. So it's really interesting because, of course, there are creative people who made the show, right? This is where it gets kind of weird, because obviously Julia Quinn sold the rights to Netflix. So really they're also, in this instance, stealing from Julia, from Shonda Rhimes, and the other people who created the show. You know, there's a bunch of creatives in there. Yeah. Oh, the Bridgerton books inspired. Okay, that is fascinating. I think it's insane that they thought they could get away with it, especially since they took dialogue from the show directly and recorded themselves watching scenes from the show to write the songs. Netflix says that they were allowed to make the album in audio format only. They broke the agreement by doing a live concert. I still kind of think it's interesting that Netflix allowed them to do the album. I think that there was a line where they were saying that it was kind of like a, not satire, but like, I think that was kind of a line they were flirting with that would have allowed them. So I actually think Netflix might have been able to step in sooner. Heather, I have a very weird view on this because of the Harry Potter musical, which was formative for me. Yes, so there's a couple interesting, there's so many interesting things. It was already too far from Netflix. Parody, thank you. Netflix got upset when they sold out the Kennedy Center. Yes. So I did see some people saying that it was they were upset when more money got involved, which kind of feels like but the line had already been crossed legally, right? So I think that might have been maybe why why Netflix was fine with it, or like even legally they couldn't do anything. I think also there was actual dialogue they pulled, but I do think when they were selling stuff at the concert, they were using material. You didn't pay to see a Harry Potter musical on YouTube. I do think that there's some version of that in Vegas. If anyone's been to Vegas, have y'all seen the I want to say there was something about that. So that's why it was protected. Let's see. The follow-up question I have to this. The thing that I find interesting is that with being in different artistic circles, I guess, is part of it the audacity? Like, maybe that's the thing that I'm shocked by or intrigued by, was that they just like kind of full steamed ahead, even though they had been told, it sounds by all accounts, that it was like they couldn't do it. Lawsuit is including concert proceeds in the merchant. Thank you. Yeah, the merchandise played a role too. Have you noticed other artistic circles not necessarily valuing the art that people make? I think this might actually be more of an issue with like digital painters. I think getting their artwork stolen and used, I think for covers sometimes, like covers of books that indie authors and others steal. Then you have like big companies also where they'll hire or they'll outsource stuff, and then you get people suing things and because they stole from digital creators. So I just wonder if you've noticed a trend of just like these different artistic circles not always appreciating in full what the other side does. And I think in some ways maybe these girls, these women saw it as like a big company. And so maybe they didn't value the art behind it. It was a different kind of art than what they were doing. I don't know. I noticed some people don't care. I don't think it's a specific circle in general. Yes, digital artists, though, are constantly doing this, which sucks, even just for posting videos without crediting. Art community has a lot of people lying who drew the picture and not giving credit. Well, that's a whole nother issue too. I know. What did they think was gonna happen? Thank you, Joanna. Yeah, this feels like how EA recently changed their TOU to ban mod creators for putting their Sims mods behind a paywall, which is causing controversy. Very interesting. Definitely noticed that in the art community. Yeah, it's just interesting. I mean, we had not that long ago the kidney saga within the writing circles, right? So there's a line about stealing and not like it happens everywhere. I guess it's just something I found interesting, is that like maybe writers don't always value digital art or physical art in the same way, because it's like somewhere in your brain you're like, well, it's not as hard. I don't know. Or it's not like you can't rationalize the time it fully took. Yeah. Bad art. Exactly. Yeah. Digital artists here, art theft is rampant. And funnily enough, those contest big companies like Netflix host where artists submit their work to be used as mercy but don't get paid for it, only credit. Merch. Yes. We're going to get to merch here in a moment too, Cassandra. From another end. But yeah, I think that's the hard part too with some of this, or at least when you want to like, it's hard because those big companies do steal from smaller artists all the time as well, right? And I don't think when it's the smaller artists, they have as easy a way to like shut that down. I find that places like TikTok and Twitch do not value things like fair use. TikTok reposts a lot of clips from YouTube videos, and Twitch has reactors who don't react. Yes, Taylor, for sure. I also think music, that's a big thing in videos and stuff too, that they've started to really they've started to do a better job, but I do think music was stolen quite often to be used in the background of streams or in YouTube videos and stuff and not credited. And I know at least on the YouTube end, YouTube has tried to do a better job of like, here's the free music you can use like built into the YouTube studio. It's never right to steal work, whether it's a large company stealing from a small creator or a small creator stealing. So I'm not like, oh, it's Netflix in this case, because they are the wrong people. Yes, and there are people who hold the, I think they showed, I want to say that both Julia Quinn, the author of the original novels that inspired Bridgerton, and Shonda Rhimes had initially, like several months ago, been like, oh my God, this is so cool about the Bridgerton musical, unofficial Bridgerton musical, and then come out and been like recently like, this is not okay, they have stolen. And it's yeah reactors. Is art thievery the creation of art based off of others, or is it only when you make a profit? Well, Amanda, I'm glad you asked, in part. This is we're gonna kind of pivot over to this because I'm curious, have you ever bought or made unofficial fandom items before? So this is an interesting an interesting line, because there's some where it's, not an exact likeness. There's some, what companies can put out as merch if they own the IP is different than also fan-made items that are like a nod, wink, wink. Like you can't say exactly what it is. But if you're a fan of the thing, then you would know. Let's see. Only seek profit from original works. That should be like the baseline rule for sure. Made, yes, for my own personal use. Definitely printed FFX characters onto t-shirts back in college. Definitely bought things inspired by other creative projects, for sure. Yes. You can make fan art, fan fiction, but you cannot make money off of it. So I've purchased unofficial merch at cons. Yeah, there's different like artist renditions of a thing that I think when it's not an exact likeness, you can get away with it if you're not also phrasing it as like this is Star Wars, whatever. Like, you can don't use the words and don't draw it exactly as it's done, whatever. Then there's this kind of thing. We will talk about fan fiction here in a second. And I say that I totally have done the same. I don't know that this is an officially licensed R2D2 wine glass, but I do have tons of like unofficial stuff that I've bought that was almost more like an ode in a lot of ways to the fandom. Spaceball. Oh my God, we've been jammed. Would that be sites like Redbubble? They have tons of fan art stuff. Is that stuff licensed? I think that would be like that stuff. I'm sure I've probably bought things in that don't say exactly what it is, but I've never searched it out purposefully. I've bought stickers that are this close to the line of Netflix's Shadow and Bone and say the thing too, which I think is just asking for trouble. Yeah, and you hear a lot of people who like get shut down on Etsy too. Like I feel like we've heard different waves of when people start, when companies start coming in and like just issuing like cease and desist and like get them off of there kind of thing. Yes, let's see. You have to change it in some way. Redbubble will also flag things. Some of it's licensed. Happened to me when I posted my Sailor Moon illustration. Okay, good to know. Yeah. Have a fan art program. Most of the time not licensed. Yes. But this is the line, because a lot of the time, I know for me at least, again, I have bought stuff. I've not made anything because I'm not talented, but I've bought stuff that is like towing the line. A lot of the times it's because there's not an official license thing that is anything like what I want. But yeah, there's so much fan art everywhere. I mean, I was just at Comic-Con. There's tons of fan art. And that's like, you know, there's a whole section for it. Mario mushroom stickers are reppable, not sure if it's licensed. I bought fan art for a very old anime once for my partner's birthday because official merch just wouldn't exist otherwise. Yeah, there's also a lot where they just don't have it. If it's a very specific thing, if it's an older thing, you get into this kind of weird, like, even if it's unlicensed, I feel guilty giving money to some girl. Oh, I feel less guilty giving money to some girl on Etsy than Netflix. There's also the conundrum too, where it's like, well, you get into it, it's wrong. But like, you know, how wrong, and yeah, it's an interesting line. I do want to talk about another interesting line that I feel like coincides with this, which is what do you think generally about fan fiction turned into original published work? I think famously an example of this is 50 Shades of Grey starting as Twilight fan fiction. Was it, I don't want to get anything wrong. There's been several others that started as fanfic and then became hugely popular. And some of these where they really are just changing the names of stuff in some capacity. Oh, Rodney. An interesting question. Like, there's a legal term for it where they say that it's, what is it, 70 years is the copyright on stuff? Do not quote me on this. But again, it goes back to if it's a very niche thing and nothing's being created about it, is it really wrong for you to then go find something on Etsy with it? Oh, I don't agree with fanfiction becoming published like after it was problematic and disrespectful. So, oh, I forgot that was how what after was. Okay, 50 Shades is so removed from Twilight that I think it's fine. I mean, it's awful, but it's not Twilight at all. I think if the fanfic is very different to the source material, it's okay. Yeah, so I think that's where an interesting line is, because sometimes fanfic is born from a love of the characters, and you could argue that it's born from a love of the character archetypes rather than the characters themselves. Like, I want to say 50 Shades of Grey, when it started as a fanfic, was like, it's if Edward and Bella like weren't vampires. And so it's kind of like well, that's like a different thing in theory, but that's the question. Where's the line drawn? Fanfic doesn't bother me if they've legitimately changed all the things and it's an alternate universe type deal, like the not vampires. You had to create your own plots and worlds and dialogues. Fanfic of real people is uncomfortable. I don't think fanfic should be published if it's similar enough, but fanfic about real people is ick. And I hate after because it's that and abusive. Oh, Heather, that's very interesting. Cosplay and cosplay commissions are technically also illegal, and sometimes cosplay shops are ripped from the internet. I was not aware of that. It's one of those where, again, like, it makes sense if you know, when I'm thinking about it, but because of, yeah, that's fascinating. Okay, Sarah, if something is an offshoot and it takes off, you know, that's just what took off. If I went after them for it as the OG, I feel like it would make me look small. That is an interesting thing too. If you're thinking of it as like it got popular off of something I wrote, right? Where it's like, well, it was a fanfic of my creation. It's kind of like, well, if it's so different, then it's like, what is it? What's it matter? I watched the 50 Shades movie and clocked it as Twilight fic before I even knew it was a book to movie adaptation. That is fascinating, Devasia. I've not seen the 50 Shades movies. But that I have seen Twilight and read Twilight. So I wonder. The problem is now that going into it, I would know. I I think fan fiction turned into original published work is fine as long as the names, plot, and setting are different because of no larger banks on the popularity of the source material. What do you think about, I don't know how often this happens or if it still happens, but publishers who would go through old fanfics and like find the authors that were publishing at the time and kind of pull them from there? You know, Amanda, that's an interesting question. I think they might have, I'm not sure where negotiations were, because I know that they had talked to the two women who'd made the unofficial musical before this instance of ultimately having to sue them. So I'm not sure exactly where or what was said. Oh, interesting, Danielle. I consider all fanfic stealing, especially if they get published. I feel like that's an opinion other authors have had before. I've not seen it in a while. The Love Hypothesis didn't even try to not make it so clear that Adam Driver. I heard people talking about that. It was the cover, right, where it also looked a little bit like Adam Driver. Depends on the fanfic. I think I know quite a few fanfic writers who do amazing work but don't want to be published. So I'm curious if publishers run into that. Oh, I could see that for sure. I think there's lots of people. Thank you, Lisa. I do think it was Anne Rice who was saying something like that. Okay. That was my last question I had about the Bridgerton, the unofficial Bridgerton musical and Netflix suing them. Let me know if you have any other thoughts, comments. They offered a license. It probably wasn't on great terms, but then again, they did not have much of any negotiations. Fascinating. Oh, Star Wars fan films. Yeah, yeah. I think it's also interesting, like YouTube, there's been talk before. I know people who do commentary videos or criticisms of stuff. I think I was watching, was it a Star Wars one? Oh yeah, it was about the new Obi-Wan. I was watching someone's review of that, and they actually got clocked by Disney, basically for showing too much of the show, despite more or less, you know, it was supposedly it was a commentary video. Disney did not feel the same way, and of course, then Disney gets all the money. So YouTube has a way to go about that that I think is really interesting. I know, Amanda. There was communication between them and the lawyers. Oh, I just started writing a fanfic on an archive of our own, and I'd never make money off of it. So I do think free fanfic is okay, but anything with money, almost always illegal unless licensed, and then it's dicey. No way! Amanda, my mom took a video of her dog watching The Lion King and then Scream removed it for copyright. They are on top of it. That is fascinating. Also, your poor mom was probably just like, no. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we are going to pivot to the next topic that I really just want to kind of chat about more briefly, as I don't actually know the conclusion to it, but did anyone else see about HarperCollins workers, the union? It's one of the, I think, only unions associated with publishing. Someone please correct me if that is wrong. And not everyone who works at HarperCollins is part of the union. But they went on a one-day planned strike for more pay, better benefits, and more diversity. And I think the interesting thing to me on this, let me pull it up. And can I share my screen? Of course I can, but can I share? Ha, success. The interesting thing to me was how the union noted that obviously within the past year, because in part with the pandemic, there's actually been an increase in revenue, lots more people buying books, and there's not been an increase in salary. And, you know, they're living in New York City, or most people who work at HarperCollins and most people who work for publishers are working in a city with notoriously high cost of living. and they were making on average, does it say it in this one? Yeah, the union is comprised mainly of women who have an average salary of $55,000. So I think I'm curious if you guys think that well, first off, do we think that more people are going to continue buying more books? Do we think that as an industry, we're going to see an uptick in books? If you're an indie author, are you still kind of seeing a rise? I think that's probably why I haven't seen anything. I have their Twitter pulled up where they were thanking people for the Strike Solidarity Fund. They wrote people collectively raised $15,000 that was distributed to the union members. But I've not seen a big issue with publishing, yes, DW, is economic diversity because they aren't paid enough. So the people who are able to stick it out come from at least a little money. So this is the question. The issue, and what I'm curious if you think that it will change in the future. You know, a lot more companies are continuing their virtual setting. I know some people have had to go back into the office, but a lot of people were like, oh, so we can still do this thing virtually. So I'm just curious if you think that the publishing industry will go into a more virtual side where it doesn't matter as much where you live, and therefore you could live in a lower cost of living area. Because this is my concern, is that there's not as much economic diversity, because you're either, maybe you came from money so you could afford to get an internship there, or you have a partner who makes more money, and like it's just it's a tough thing, and I'd like to see it change. I just don't know what would need to go about in order to change that. Yeah, starting salary was $45,000, but intermediate salary was $56,000. The problem was they had to be in New York, and that was not going to pay. Exactly. So do you think that books will continue to rise? Ebooks, audiobooks will continue to sell? Not sure about print. I thought the interesting thing was that they noted they actually saw an uptick in print throughout the pandemic, which it was kind of like they were seeing people return to a physical format of book, which I thought was really interesting. I know Zara's worked in publishing. Publishing is also super hostile toward non-white, non-hetero, non-cis people. So even if diverse people are hired, they're often kind of left behind. Oh, Pucks and Paper. I think Book Talk has really helped increase more readers. Tangle Sauce, I will always buy print. I obviously am also a print book fan, though I use my library so much. I do prefer print books, and now that my kids are getting older, I can read them again. Oh, that's so nice. Publishing has such small profit margins, but concerning sales, I think it'll probably be cyclical. You can see a big books come out and you'll see an uptick. Yeah, I can see that for sure too. Alexa knows. Print is strong, period. Audiobooks and ebooks cannot compare, and likely never will in most genres. My print sales vastly outpace my audiobooks and ebook sales. Thank you for sharing. That is very interesting. I think print will always sell. History has proven that. Hold on, my partner just got home. One sec. I keep the doors open for the dogs, but then all the sound of the garage. Isabel, I agree about Book Talk. The insane expansion of the YA section of bookstores is really challenging. The teens these days don't read. I cannot believe that is a narrative that has happened at all. I feel like YA has been, romance always carries, but I feel like YA had such an uptick. In fact, now seems like a little bit of but you might be right with Book Talk. Let me find, here we go. So as an industry, we see a rise of people buying books. What do you think about the imbalance between the cost of living in New York? And do you think that that's going to change? Will they go into a more virtual thing? Or do you think people are going to continue to have to live in New York City and receive low pay? I think the struggle also is that there's a bit about like the starving artist. The idea that I think in some ways we expect the actual authors just struggle. Like that's a narrative that we're used to. I think the problem is that there's the industry as a whole, because it's fueled on people get into it because they're passionate about it. I think in some ways that plays into people being willing to accept less money because you're getting to do what you love. And that just goes back into that economic issue where people who have money might be more available to be in the industry. The only safe format is physical for media. Yes, I can't remember what game was doing that recently where they were like, lol, just kidding. And we're pulling back on it. Part of this is tied to price points for audiobook and ebook, specifically in trad. When push comes to shove, the average reader will pay for a physical copy, but not that price for digital. I'm thinking that the pay rate probably won't change due to the increase in remote work options, unfortunately. Alexa. I'm actually going to have the opportunity to interview my audiobook narrator and ask her lots of questions about the process. I'm very excited. Alexa, I am also very excited for that. Ooh. I have so many questions. I'm excited to hear / watch. Zara, I was taught podcasts are growing more than audiobooks in my publishing masters. That's fascinating. People are liking audio more, but audiobooks technically aren't growing like crazy. What? That is fascinating. Making an audiobook is so expensive. It's good to hear it's becoming more popular. Oh, well, Zara might have answered you. You can love something very much, but you need money to live. Yeah. Which again goes back to people who can afford to be in the industry could be in the industry, but people who you might need their voices can't afford it. So it's really a struggle. I live in New York and 50K is a bit higher than my PhD stipend, but I get subsidized housing and will make good money when I graduate. So you can make that money work, but like it's not livable long term. When my ebooks go on sale, they sell, but not at full price. Most other YA books are similar, but even then, the tail of my physical books is bonkers in a good way. Yay, Alexa. Yay! I'm interviewing her on YouTube. It was my audiobook publisher's idea. Look at them. See, they know a good thing. They're like, we see Alexa. We see her platform. That's awesome. Obviously, if y'all do not already know Alexa Dunn, you should go check out her channel. I'm assuming if you're here, you probably already know about her. But if you want to know more about TradPub and all of the fun book things, it's a secret, everyone. Okay, we're going to go ahead and pivot into the final-ish topic, depending on what all you guys want to chat about. But the final topic I had was the Reddit thread on Patrick Rothfuss' charity fundraiser, where he promised to release, let me actually just share my screen again so that y'all can see it. It was a quite long, is this it? Share. Aha, okay, I don't know that y'all can see that. Let me see it. Alrighty. In December, readers donated over $700,000 to Patrick Rothfuss' charity for him to read a chapter from Doors of Stone, with the expectation of February at the latest. He has made no formal update in 8 months. So this is a common thing he does every year, a fundraiser through his charity, and he used book 3 related rewards. I think someone in the chat earlier said that it had been 10 years since the release of book 2. Is that right? Someone can correct me. I know it has been a while. He initially set the stretch goal to read the prologue. All 3 books have similar prologues that they differ by roughly 1 to 2 paragraphs. The goal, crushed it, set a second stretch goal to read another chapter. The second goal was again demolished. He attempted to backtrack on the promise, demanding there be a third stretch goal that was essentially all or nothing, saying I never said I would release when I would release the chapter. Added the third stretch goal when there was backlash. Said that he'd also get voice actors for an audiobook or like an audio portion for the chapter. The goal was met and the final amount raised was roughly $1.25 million. He proceeded to read the prologue shortly after the end of the fundraiser. Stated in December they'd receive new chapter by February, and there's been nothing since. So had y'all seen this, because it has a crazy amount of upvotes on the old Reddit. And I want to know. Yes, he did read the prequel. Okay, it's been so long. So it goes to a charity, Cassandra. There is a note that this person made. So we're going off of the Reddit thread. He does own the charity, but the money is not held by them. It goes to directly to an international organization, but he does pay himself about $100,000 for renting out his home as the charity's headquarters, aside from any publicity, sponsorships, etc. that he receives. But he's not pocketing the $1.3 million in running. So that is the conundrum. You are here for the tea. Okay, Angel said they saw this and hated it. Giving major 2014 era Tumblr scam energy. So I think it's worth noting that there's been, I think in the past few years, several authors that I've read. Actually, there's an author that I love with a series that I love, where she basically said that she wanted to finish the series, but due to like some really weird behind the scenes publishing drama, it basically soured her from the series as a whole. I've read other stuff by this author since, but she's not finished the series. And she said that it actually really sucked when people asked her about it. So I do want to make a distinction between authors not finishing books and there being extra reasons for why they may not finish books. That's not potentially just a Patrick Rothfuss or a George R.R. Martin thing. Yeah, this is why I'm always so terrified of doing stuff like this. I can get so in the weeds and overwhelmed with things, and I'm bad about follow through for this stuff. So this is the hard part, of course, because he really set himself up, didn't he? Like this is the thing. Oh, Alexa, I have follow-up questions that are exactly this. Even with my street team, I've really sucked at rewards because the logistical stuff involved psychs me out. Don't be like me, kids. That is totally a stressful thing. I can see that completely. I think generally people should let authors take their time, but if you took people's money in exchange for a thing, like you have to do that thing. Okay, here's the question, and then the immediate follow-up question is, does this change when money has been donated or given? But as a whole, do you think that readers should hold authors accountable for not finishing a series, and what does accountable mean for you? Do you basically just kind of watch, like, you're like, okay, I just won't trust them to finish stuff again, and that's on me? Or are you of a different opinion, you know? Very little communication. Oh, interesting. I don't know much about his Twitch streams. He's been super fixating on this thing where he's getting out of print stuff back into print. That's fascinating. I mean, honestly, Brando Sando could do a masterclass and stuff like that. Yeah. Silence is its issue. If you're bad at it, hire other people to do it. Why would he set up rewards that he wouldn't be able to follow through with? I feel like again, he really just set himself up. Amanda, why don't more authors finish their series before publication? Would a publisher not want at least a full outline? I mean, I think this is the hard part on, because you really sell book one and then you tell them that book one like can stand alone oftentimes. Sometimes when you're selling it, it's like a whole series or duology or something. Industries to get lots of authors hire their own public. Yeah, because they're not provided. You know, this is the interesting thing. We've seen a lot recently about people saying like publishers should provide almost like media training for authors, but they don't really. So hiring their own publicist. Like with TV, after season 1 of Stranger Things boom, Netflix needed a full outline through season 5. Story should evolve over time. Yeah, so this is like a How I Met Your Mother thing too, that I just hurts my heart. I think there's a lot of reasons that you wouldn't have a full outline for the entire series. I do think that it's interesting because I think in this case, the publisher or the editor has come out and been like, I have no idea when I'm getting this book or if I'm ever getting this book. There's been quotes that people in that thread were linking to. So it's I mean, I don't think they're happy about not getting the book either, right? Yeah, I know. It hurts. It hurts still. How dare they do this to us? Nowadays, 80% of the time you see a book tour, the author coordinated in themselves. Alexa, it's fine. It's not fine. I'm just like, why? Oh, hello. From Austin, Texas. Is that what your ATX is? I think authors should be limited with how many books should be written in a year. Oh, I appreciate your hot take, and I feel like we need to do hot takes again in the future. I was upset at first, but now it's just a thing. Yeah, I think at a certain point you come around and you're like, it's whatever. I feel like we're all on the same page that you can't really hold authors accountable for not finishing. There's a lot of reasons. One of the things we'll kind of chat about later is a mental health aspect when something rises to that level of popularity. But I do think that we're also all in agreement that once you give money, it does change things. He really shot himself in the foot with this one. That I'm just like, and the lack of communication, is not better. I did have this question before Alexa. Well, what are some rewards you'd love to receive from your favorite authors for milestone things, just for fun swag? I'm very curious. One of my favorite YA series ever was never finished. Initially, the author took a break because she got cancer, but then, are we talking about one of the... there was a similar instance for me, Jacqueline, with one of my favorite YA series. But then I also had an author that I loved who came out and was talking about how, there was just some publishing shenanigans that happened, and that kind of ruined it. Seeing as book social media has a chance to seriously influence whatever a new author says, I think it's irresponsible for publishers to push them into spotlight with no media training. Yeah, I agree, Isabel. I feel like, it's tough now. I feel like the chance of becoming an overnight sensation is easier now. I think you might be more quickly forgotten in some instances, but I don't think anyone's ready to reach the level of instant fame almost that the algorithms are spitting out nowadays. And I think that's really tough. And I'm surprised that publishing has not done more to help certain authors sometimes. Cora Carmack and Jennifer L. Armentrout have been open about how their eye stuff, diminishing eyesight, is making it hard to keep up their promised series schedules. So at least there's an explanation. Yeah. And it's interesting because I think if you told a lot of people that, like if you were, I think some things are harder to be more open about than others. Because I know there's been authors where they've, years later been like, I was really struggling with my mental health then. And I just was not able to complete it. And so it sucked to then get some demands on that. Counterpoint, I know some authors who do get that media training smart and still do horrifically stupid stuff online. You know what? Due to their you know what, Alexa, you're not wrong. Okay. Yes. Bookmarks are merch related to their books, like Aiden Thomas did. We are here for the merch. Signed book plates are my favorite pre-order rewards. Don't need tchotchkes, just good books. What? Also, there's going to be a tiny replica sword in one of the boxes. I screamed when I heard. Wait, Heather. Oh, I got to scroll up. I don't know. Oh, I backed Brandon's Kickstarter. I know so many people who did. My partner did too. And I'm so excited for the character pins that are just a reward. Oh, that's very cool. I don't think so. George R. R. Martin has also worked on other things in the meantime, so he's not really giving people the book that they want, but he's like also actively been working on some stuff. I've been in debut groups where it doesn't matter if I give sage advisory, social media marketing events, publicity, they just don't listen. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that you just don't know until you're in the moment of it. But that might be a more generous interpretation of what happened. Signed book plates, taking notes for when I'm publishing Kelly Wright's debut book next year. Do love a good, so this is the thing. Signed personalized book plates are where it's at, it sounds like. Yeah, don't want to follow any sort of guideline. This is the problem. Do like signed books, but I don't need anything by the book if I pre-order. Ooh, anything but the book. Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting because for me, when I'm ordering the book, it's like, I just really want the book. So getting extra stuff, like, that's nice, but I don't think I've ever ordered something because of the extra stuff before in terms of books. Oh, all press is good press. Ugh, yikes. I would like a personalized signed copy of a book, like the personalized signing of the Julie Newmar. I do like signed books, but I don't need anything by the book if I pre-order. Oh yeah, that was the one. A free digital copy with the order of the physical. Oh, I don't know that they're ever going to get to that, but that would be, or is that happening? I feel like, I don't know that I've seen that, but what's the app where there is an app that does that where you have both the audio and a digital copy of the book. I think that's kind of genius. Long-term, going negative in your branding will hurt you. Doesn't matter because many want short-term gains, rebuzz. Yep. All right. And the final question I had for y'all is generally, I want to know if you've experienced this, whatever you feel like sharing. But have you had your mental health or physical health? Have you had your health affect your ability to complete projects before? And I guess the added context with this one is when it's this level of notoriety for something, when it's this level of hype for the thing, how much worse do you think that would compound? Because I sometimes wonder in instances like the George R.R. Martin one and the Patrick Rothfuss one, if the hype around it is actually having a negative effect on their ability to create the thing. Because now you're second guessing yourself in a way that you hadn't before. I know that I've been to different book events where I've like been listening to authors and they talk about how the second book was really tough for them because it was the first time that they'd gotten feedback on their book and it was the first time that they were on a crunch. And I imagine if you take that times 1,000, you would get what some of these highly anticipated books are like. I have to finish before I lose interest and it's a struggle. My mental health has affected my ability to finish manuscripts, especially when they are darker themed plots. Yes. I write as a stress relief, so my bad mental health is actually what propels me to finish things. Oh, that's a nice little change is, it helps you to get stuff out. My mental health is directly tied to my ability to create. I think a lot of people found that out, especially during, COVID and lockdown and stuff. I can't write right now because I'm struggling with depression. It makes me unable to write at all. I'm sorry about that. And hopefully that'll change soon. But yeah. Absolutely had emotional mental state affect my writing. That people hated my endings for my first 2 books lives rent-free in my brain. I imagine, Alexa, it's also in some ways, I mean, obviously your publishers and your other books, like you're continuing to sell. And that vote of confidence has to help. But I do understand that it's like, I can't with that level of feedback is really tough. Tavesha wants to know. We all want to know. I write when I hit mental health lows, but it sure does affect my ability to do some school stuff. But I think that's because I don't write as a job, and it'd be different if I did. We believe in you, Alexa. We wanted. Hi, Rachel. But expectations 100% affect me as I write, which is why I found it so helpful to have a personal project going while I write for publication. I think that's an interesting method to help you. I think that's really smart to have one that's like kind of just for you, and then to have one that you're seeking publication on, where you're like, this is just for me. No one else will ever read this. and then trying to find one for the audience. Also, rent-free my babe, no matter what I do. Contingent will hate my books, hate read them, and one-star them for being too political. Oh, man. Alexa, I'm also curious, because you are so public, and by that I just mean you have, you got your YouTube button and stuff. Does it bother you at all when people go and hate read them because they know you from YouTube and then one-star them? Like, I know you got your people who hate watch, which is always fun. Yeah, I could see that being a constant, but maybe that doesn't bother you as much either. I don't know. Weirdly, my mental health is more negative when I'm busy, so I don't have time to write them anyway. Yeah. Oh, Sanderson and Wells have talked about this on their podcast a bit. They tell authors to not look at Goodreads, that it's for the reason, not for that. For sure. Yeah. I think it's also the part now, especially because, and I actually just foresee this getting worse, is because of social media, people are still tag authors and stuff. I think it's hard when you're existing in a place and also like but you consume and you create. Does that make sense? So it's like, you might be on Book Talk or something and then see people like hating on your book and you're like, oh no. I think that part is tough too. I've been on it before. And I saw my name pop up for something because I'm in the writing subreddits hanging out because I'm a writer and that's what I do. And then I was like, oh, this is unfortunate. Like this is, it was not me seeking something. It was still, and I'm like the tiniest of tiny in terms of that. So I can only imagine when you're just hanging out in a location and people are just, the struggle. Yes, it bothers me. I know I can't change it, and YouTube brings good stuff too, but it means I'm judged on a very different level than many of my way. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. That's what I assumed, but I was kind of hoping you'd like unlocked a way to overcome that, and then you can share it with me. Let's see. Mental exhaustion is real. I problem solve at work, and writing is creating problems and solving them, not the best combo. Yes. I applaud anyone who can do their day job, come home and write, and then also do all your like family and life stuff and general things. I know that Brandon Sanderson, he talks about this in his lecture series, but he basically ended up taking a different day job so that he could have the mental capacity he needed to write. I think he was writing code, and that it kind of tapped in too closely to the same part of his brain that needed to write fiction. So my fiction projects tend to be the ones I use as mental health support projects, so they're the ones I tend to gravitate towards when the brain's being a dick, but other creative projects do take a hit. Oh, they also say that they've gotten a critical email and it's affected their ability to write later. I think even your biggest supporters don't realize how stressful it is to hear. So when can we read your next thing? Yeah, I think it's really interesting also from writers' perspectives when the writers are also kind of demanding that as a reader, because you think that it would be like, well, you understand how long it takes to write something. But of course, it takes let's say it takes you 12 hours to read a book, but it took the writer literal years to write. And I think that's really tough to then go and be like, well, when's the next thing coming out? And they're like, I'm still on this thing. Oftentimes it feels so much like it's constantly about the next thing. And that can be tough. My chiropractor asked when my book is going to be finished earlier this week, and I asked for my scoliosis. Jessica, stop. Oh my gosh. He was writing code and I write code, and I watched the video of Brandon. Was like, oh, DW. You know what? There's a lot of people. I think it's interesting that the people who write code also, I know a lot of people who write code and write fiction. I think it's interesting to get a crossover in the brain. Okay. We have done it. Those are all of my topics. I don't know if anyone else has a topic. Thank you guys for joining me for just this random hodgepodge of things that I was curious about. I appreciated getting to pick your brains. My voice is leaving me, and I don't know why. So I think that's going to be it for me. I had so much fun. Thank you for joining me. This is all that has been on my mind the past week, and I was like, I just need to get it out. I just need to talk to people about this. So I appreciate it. If you have any other random topics that you'd like to talk about in a future chatty stream, let me know. Leave a comment, and maybe we'll do this again sometime. Maybe I'll have fun guests on next time. Who knows? I had a great time. All right. Thank you guys. Bye.